What is up, everybody? This is Lyle with No Hippie Trucking and Transportation Wannabe, and me and my zit were listening to the radio earlier today, and a radio show that I was listening to, that's hosted by Colin Cowherd, had a topic on being economically trapped, and he was relating that to football, but I think it applies to trucking in real life in general. Now, some of you guys don't know who Colin Cowherd is. He's a sports radio personality, but a lot of his analogies come from a business background. I'm not sure if he was in business before this, but definitely business-minded in some of his the ways he relates to things. So as far as this topic and being economically trapped, I want to talk about a few things. First of all, I want to talk about how I've been trapped in the past economically, how it relates to trucking, and how I actually use it when I implement or when I'm looking at signing a lease for somebody that's going to rent one of my, or actually I only have one property that's rented right now, so somebody that may be renting that property. So how I've been trapped economically, when I got out of high school, I graduated high school with a 1.8 grade point average, and it actually might have been lower than that. I think a teacher just wanted to get me out of there, but really got out of high school with no relatable skills. Went into the Marine Corps, came out of there, and I found a job selling cars. And selling cars is kind of almost the same thing as being a truck driver. You make a lot of money for relatively no translatable skills outside of whatever that job is. So there are plenty of times that I got sick of selling cars, and I just couldn't get out of the business. I tried it. I sold cars between 91 and 99, and probably after the first 4 years, I'd spent the rest of those years trying to get out of that business. And part of the reason I couldn't get out of the business was that I was making more money than I could make with the skills that I had obtained at that point in my life. So if I was going to quit selling cars, I was going to take a dramatic pay cut for most jobs I was going to get into, and I got kind of trapped into selling cars. And I was dabbling in a few other things along the way, and finally in 1999, well, probably in 96, I started the plan to get out of the car business seriously. So I started cutting out debt, because at that point I wasn't as serious about it as I am now. So I started cutting out debt, doing all these things, and I finally was able to take a job that was going to give me translatable skills to other stuff in the future, but it was going to take at least a 50% pay cut right off the bat. So actually it was about 98. So in 1998, I became just a regular banker, like if you were to go in and set up a checking account, those kind of things. Maybe 97, I'm not exactly sure what year that was. But either way, I was taking, that job paid about $30,000, so about half of what I was making selling cars. So me, as well as a lot of other people I know, it got trapped in the car business by making just enough money to where we weren't able to quit that job and go anywhere else unless we were going to stay in that business. Now, how does that relate to truck driving? I've been watching a bunch of YouTube channels, and a lot of the people, I did a video the other day and I'd mentioned some other YouTube channels. Most of the people that are watching my channel aren't the YouTube channels that I'm relating any of this stuff to. But there's a couple younger YouTube channels, or YouTube truckers, that are under, let's say, 25 years old, and they're making a whole lot of money for their age and things like that. And I'm not sure if they do or don't have any plans or any goals or anything like that, but you can get trapped really quick. If you base your life on, I think one of them said he was making close to or over $100,000 a year. If you're basing your life on making that much money, and don't have any exit strategy, or aren't planning and setting some money aside, or living below your means in case something happens, you're setting yourself up for disaster. Somebody making $100,000 a year, whether it's trucking or any other business, if they're not living below their means and they don't have a job that's transferable, meaning if you're a truck driver and you get in an accident, or you get too many tickets, or you get something that keeps you from driving a truck, do you have any other way of making $100,000 a year? I'm going to speculate that most people that are watching this video are going to say no. So live below your means. Don't get trapped economically. That's how it kind of relates to trucking. How it's kind of related to me in other businesses. When I was a mortgage banker, once I really got to the point where I felt like I was like really kind of financially secure, there were times when I had clients that were thinking that I was like, basically, let's say they were questioning my ethics, or it could be an underwriter that was, asking me for a bunch of dumb shit on a loan. I let it be known that I was really the least interested in all the parties in getting this loan done, and it really changes perspective when you're not selling something out of fear, and when the underwriter realizes, what, maybe I am asking for something a little stupid, and I better go ahead and get this condition out of the way, or else I'm not going to get paid on it, or the underwriter's not going to get paid on it. That's stuff that maybe a lot of people aren't going to be able to understand from that are watching this video. But here's how it kind of relates. Here's how I use this in renting properties and things like that. Whenever I was looking for a potential candidate to lease my property, I was never looking for somebody that made, how much money they made didn't really matter, but I was never looking for somebody that had perfect credit. I was never looking for the perfect candidate. I was always looking for somebody that, and I know this is going to sound bad, but from a business standpoint, you can't hate me for it, but I was always looking for somebody to rent my property that could afford it, that maybe somebody else wasn't going to rent to, that had just low enough self-esteem to not want to go and buy their own house. So here's kind of how that works. If you go out and start looking for the perfect candidate that has other options, you're going to get somebody that has really good income, really good credit, really good rental history, things like that. What you're really setting yourself up for is for that person to be leaving your property as soon as that lease is over with. So as long as I've been renting, going back to 2002, I was always looking for somebody that could afford to pay it. A perfect example, one of my people was a nurse, could afford to pay for the property, didn't really have good rental history because she'd been in and out of, she had a couple instances where she had to leave and couldn't fulfill her lease and things like that, but I knew she could pay for the property. Rented it to her, and I had a loyal renter, and actually I would lease my properties below what the market value was. So not only do I have people trapped or that feel like they can't or don't want to go find another property, I'm leasing for less money than what the going rate is. So I've leased properties since, and I know I'm kind of rambling on, but I've leased properties since 2002, and I've had maybe a total of 5 people that have rented for me. And the reason is, I'm not looking for somebody that is the perfect rental candidate. I'm not looking for somebody that has perfect credit, and I'm leasing properties below market value to where if they begin to start looking, whether it's to rent or buy, if they look to go rent a property, they find that they can't find anything comparable. And if they want to buy something, even if I always think that I would rather buy a property and live a little more humbly than renting a better property, a lot of people don't think that way. So they might go and possibly look at buying a house and see what they could buy and realize that they can't buy a property as nice as the one that I'm leasing to them. So those are ways that I kind of use to trap people into, and I'm not trapping them, but in essence, I'm kind of trapping them into leasing my properties. Don't get trapped into staying in the trucking industry. Stay in the trucking industry, obviously, but don't trap yourself or get yourself in a position to where you don't have any other options other than the trucking industry or a job in the trucking industry. Don't get yourself in a situation where you make, where you're making the money you want, but you can't stay on the job, but can't leave to go somewhere else because you're not going to make the same amount of money. There have been plenty of times that the best job doesn't always pay the best money. I know that's not common in the truck business or truck industry. All I keep hearing is, money, 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 money. And I can certainly tell you in the short period of time that I've been in the trucking industry that the best job and the most money don't always meet at the same place. Anyway, just wanted to give you guys that little bit of perspective. I'm not a trucking guru, just somebody try to give you a little bit of perspective. I hope that maybe this helps, primarily some of the younger people out there, maybe give them a little something to chew on. Anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for stopping by No Hippie Trucking and Transportation Wannabe. Comment, subscribe, and I'm out.